Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of Celebrate Wonder. We have another person in the Bible that we are going to learn about. His name is Saul, or is it Paul, or is it both?
Could this be the place? Could we be the ones? Could it really happen like you said? 'Cause we don't see the way where you're coming from. Sometimes it's hard to trust your promises. All we see is mystery and things that seem impossible. But through every question, we can see that you give us reason to believe. 'Cause we can see your face in every inch of sky. There is proof in every single star. Your promises are spread all above our head, so we can't even see them in the dark. And so we wait, we have faith. Soon the laughter will break out. Through every question, we can see that you give us reason to believe. A day will come, a time and place, when you will carry out your promises. A brand new song, a brand new name, a brand new day to celebrate. Through every question, we can see that you give us reason to
Hi everyone, it's Carly. Have you ever met someone who you weren't sure about being friends with? One time, a new kid joined my class from a different classroom. We'd heard about him and he was kind of mean. We didn't want him to hang out with us. Honestly, we were a little nervous. One day, our friend, Rebecca, said that we should give him a chance. Rebecca met him at recess and said that he seemed nice. She said that we should try to get to know him. When we did, we realized that he must have changed because he was awesome. Our Bible story teaches us that sometimes love is giving someone another chance. In our story today, Paul, who is also known as Saul, is trying to be accepted by the people who follow Jesus. The problem is, Paul was known for doing a lot of bad things, but now he really just wanted to serve like Jesus. Barnabas went to the community and told them that Paul had changed. Though the people didn't trust Paul yet, they trusted Barnabas and gave Paul a chance. Barnabas shows love by speaking up for Paul so that Paul could help and serve. Just like my friend Rebecca, Barnabas helped the community see that people change. A second chance may be what someone needs to show they've changed and can do good. Sometimes we have to speak up for others too. People around you may not agree with you or accept what you're saying, but that doesn't mean you don't try. We have chances to show love by speaking up for others. When we love, we give everyone a chance. Now it's your turn to wonder.
Grab the Celebrate Wonder Bible Storybook and turn to the back. Acts chapter 9, 26 through 31. You can find it on page 282 and 283. The church grows. Paul arrives in Jerusalem. He tried to join the disciples, Jesus' friends, but they were afraid of him. The disciples did not believe Paul had really become a follower of Jesus. Barnabas knew that Paul loved Jesus, so he brought Paul to the disciples. Barnabas told the believers Paul's story. Barnabas told the believers that Paul could be trusted. After this, Paul was able to work with the disciples to tell others about Jesus. Because Paul, the disciples, and all the followers of Jesus told everyone about Jesus' life and love, the church grew. Can you count all the people in the picture? Hey everybody, it's Miss Nicole. It's great that you've joined us here today. And you just learned about the story about Peter, who wanted the disciples to believe him and his faith in that he really was a follower of Jesus. And I'm going to read a little bit from the family book because I think this wording is a little different than in the Bible story reading, and I think it kind of talks about some of the points of what we're talking about: love and being there for others and listening and faith growing all together. So Barnabas knew that Paul had changed and that he loved Jesus and wanted to share Jesus' story. He convinced the disciples to trust Paul because they didn't want to trust him because of his past. When Paul was in danger in Jerusalem, the disciples helped him escape. Paul continued to travel and share about Jesus. So did Jesus' friends. The church continued to grow. So here's an instance where Barnabas stuck up for Peter, and then the disciples later on helped Peter when he was in trouble. And the faith grew. More and more people are hearing about Jesus, and there are more and more followers, and the church grew. So, this is a great example of love and of trust and of giving people a second chance. And these are all things that we can do in our lives. The wonder question I want you to think about is Have you ever stood up for someone who wasn't being treated fairly? So that's the wonder question for the week for all of you, the 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, and the big kids too. Okay? For our project this week, we are going to visually show the church growing. So let me move my screen down here to my table here, and you can see my pictures. Oh, there's a picture of the church there. And you're going to cut them out, and it says to put them on cups, so I did put them on cups. The church, and as more followers come, the church gets bigger, and it grows, and it grows. So it's just an example of how one person's faith shares, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows. Okay, I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you on Sunday Zoom. Bye.
Hi, boys and girls. Glad you're here. We're talking about a man today who didn't start out spreading the love like we've been learning all these other stories have. His name was Saul to begin with, and he didn't like the Christians. He was definitely mean and hateful to them and had that reputation. The disciples were afraid of him. They didn't want anything to do with him. But God needed Saul to be part of the overall picture of growing the church, and he changed his heart. Saul, as well, got his name changed. That happens sometimes in the Bible. Saul became Paul, and he went off to Jerusalem to join the disciples, and they weren't so sure. They didn't really want any part of it. But you know, he had a friend. He had a friend named Barnabas, and Barnabas stood up for him and said, "Listen, guys, I know this guy's change of heart is real. He does indeed love Jesus, and he does need to be a part of our disciples and spreading the word of God." The disciples agreed. Paul not only became one of them, but he became one of the most influential preachers and speakers and teachers of the early church. He and Barnabas traveled to many cities and towns, starting churches. And Paul actually wrote 13 at least of the books in the New Testament, and they all are letters, each one to a different church that had just started up. And Paul would follow through with some advice and guidance and counsel and blessing. We have these books in our Bible today, and we read them for the very same reason, to learn how to grow our faith, to get counsel and blessing. What a great story that lots of our words can be used in here. Barnabas is as much a hero as Paul in some respects. He stood up for him when all of the other disciples were kind of not so cool about the idea. And what a difference that made for Paul to become a part of the group, to be accepted, and to be so influential in spreading the word of Christ. Barnabas' name, incidentally, is son of encouragement. That's interesting. They made a bigger deal of what your name meant and all that stuff back in the Bible. But sometimes that's kind of a cute connection, and I like that. So we've learned about a bad guy bully being used by God in a huge, huge way. Just think what he can do with us. I wonder. The projects today will help. A very neat project on bullying. We'll talk about this next time when we go over these questions. You may want to think about them with your family during the week. Lots of neat questions about how to not let the bully get away with it. Shall we say that? To let somebody know what's going on, to stand up to them. I'm not sure. We'll talk about that. Anyway, there's some good stuff in there. Read that through and tell me what you think on Sunday. And then there's a word search. I did a good job of finding the three most important words: God, Barnabas, and Paul. Rest are up to you. And for Kaylee, she's got a pretty detailed crossword puzzle. We'll see if she gets those. I'm sure she will. And then on the back, she's got two. Saul was clearly an imperfect person. Why do you think God uses imperfect people to serve and do God's work? Well, thank goodness he does, because all of us fit into that imperfect people category. A neat story. Doesn't start out with a whole lot of love, but ends up with it. That's my kind of story. See you soon.